parked late. I mean, really late when the office building is so quiet you can hear your own heartbeat. That's where our story begins tonight. Picture this: a modern skyscraper, all glass and steel, silent under a blanket of stars. Inside on the 25th floor, a lone figure, let's call him Mark, finally shuts down his computer. The clock on his screen glows, 11:58 p.m. He's exhausted, just wanting to get home. He gathers his things, slings his bag over his shoulder, and walks out into the dimly lit hallway. The only sound is the soft hum of the air conditioning. He presses the button for the elevator, and the arrow lights up with a soft ding. The doors slide open, revealing an empty car. Mark steps inside, the doors closing behind him with a gentle whoosh, sealing him in. He presses the G button for the ground floor. The elevator lurches slightly and begins its descent. 25, 24, 23 ... The numbers tick down steadily. Mark leans against the cool metal wall, scrolling idly through his phone. Suddenly, the lights inside the elevator flicker once, then twice before going out completely, plunging him into total darkness. The elevator shudders to a halt. Mark's heart jumps. He fumbles for his phone, its screen providing the only light. The display panel above the door is dead. He presses the ground floor button again. Nothing. He tries the door open button. Still nothing. He takes a deep breath and presses the emergency call button. A crackle, then silence. He presses it again, holding it down. The silence in the small metal box is deafening. Okay, let's pause Mark's story for a second. What would you do in this situation? Most of us would probably panic, right? But elevators, especially modern ones, have an incredible number of safety features. The chances of one free-falling are astronomically low, thanks to multiple cable systems and automatic braking mechanisms. In fact, you're more likely to be struck by lightning than to be in a plummeting elevator, so the first rule is don't panic. The emergency button usually connects to a 24/7 monitoring service. Even if the first press doesn't work, network issues can happen. Keep trying every minute or so. Yelling for help is also a good idea. Elevator shafts are designed to carry sound, and someone might hear you. But whatever you do, never ever try to pry the doors open and climb out. That's how most accidents actually happen. Back to Mark. He's been trapped for about 10 minutes now. He's tried the call button a dozen times. He's yelled until his throat is raw. Nothing. He slides down to the floor, his initial panic turning into a cold, heavy feeling of dread. He checks his phone. No signal. Of course. He's in a metal box suspended between floors. He leans his head back, closing his eyes. That's when he hears it. A soft scratching sound. It seems to be coming from above. From the ceiling panel. Mark's eyes snap open. He shines his phone light upwards. The scratching stops. He holds his breath, listening. Silence. He must have imagined it. The stress is getting to him. Then a soft, metallic scrape. This time he's sure of it. It's the sound of the emergency hatch in the ceiling being unlatched. From the outside, Mark scrambles to his feet, heart pounding against his ribs. He points his phone light at the ceiling hatch. It's slowly, silently pushing upwards. A dark gap appears. Who could possibly be on top of the elevator car at this time of night? Maintenance? Security? He calls out, "Hello, is someone there?" Stuck in here. No response. The hatch continues to open. A wave of cold air washes down into the car. Mark backs into the corner, his phone shaking in his hand. He can't see anything in the darkness of the shaft above, but he can feel a presence, an unsettling feeling of being watched. Then a shape begins to lower itself through the opening. It's not a person. It's long and thin, and it moves with an unnatural fluidity. Mark's mind struggles to process what he's seeing. The light from his phone catches a glimpse of pale, smooth skin, and a face with features that are almost human, but not quite. The eyes are too large, and they glow with a faint internal light. It turns its head, fixing its gaze on him, and then it smiles. A wide, silent smile that reveals far too many teeth. The last thing Mark sees before his world goes dark is that impossible smile, growing wider and wider. What do you think happened to Mark? And what was that thing on top of the elevator? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that will make you think twice before working late. Stay safe out there. The sleek metal doors slid shut, sealing me inside a box of polished steel and faint antiseptic air. I tapped the button for the 15th floor of my apartment. The button glowed a reassuring orange, and with a soft lurch, the elevator began its ascent. I leaned against the back wall, pulling out my phone to scroll through notifications. 1, 2, 3. The red digital numbers above the door climbed steadily, each change accompanied by a gentle chime. Everything was perfectly normal. I glanced up as it passed the 5th floor. 5, 6, 7, 8. I looked back down at my phone, half listening to the familiar rhythm of the climb. Suddenly, a jolt, sharper than the initial start, made me look up. The number display had just flashed 10. But now, instead of 11, it read 14. That was weird. Did I blink and miss 3 floors? The elevator was fast, but not that fast. I straightened up, my attention now fully on the display. It held on 14 for a second longer than usual, then flickered, not to 15, my floor, but back down to 12. My stomach did a little flip. Okay, maybe a power surge? A glitch in the system? The car shuddered slightly and the number changed again. This time it jumped to 18. We were going up, past my floor. I quickly stabbed the door open button. Nothing happened. The light didn't even flicker. I pressed it again, harder this time, a sense of unease starting to prickle at the back of my neck. I then hammered the button for my floor, the 15th, over and over. It remained stubbornly unlit. The elevator, meanwhile, continued its bizarre journey. The display flashed 23, then 9, then 30. The building only has 25 floors. My heart started hammering against my ribs. This wasn't a glitch. The movements were becoming more erratic, the lurches more violent. One moment I felt weightless as we shot upwards. The next my knees buckled as we plummeted. I fumbled for the emergency call button, my fingers trembling. I pressed the small red-ringed button and held it down. A crackle of static, then a distorted, tinny voice. Hello? Is someone there? Yes, hello. I'm stuck in the elevator. I yelled, my voice shaking. It's not working right. The floors are all wrong. There was a pause. The display above me now showed a single ominous character, H, not a number. Just a letter. Ma'am, the voice crackled back. Which elevator are you in? The one in the main lobby, the north one? I shouted, pressing my face closer to the speaker. Please, you have to get me out of here. A long silence followed. The air in the car felt thick, heavy. The only sound was my own ragged breathing and the low, unsettling hum of the elevator, which had now stopped moving. Ma'am, the voice finally returned, the static heavier than before. I'm looking at the security feed right now. According to our system, the north elevator has been out of service for maintenance all day. It's sitting empty on the ground floor. My blood ran cold. I spun around, staring at my faint reflection in the polished steel walls. If the elevator was on the ground floor, where was I? And whose voice was I talking to? The small speaker crackled one last time, but it wasn't the voice from before. It was a faint, whispery sound, a distorted giggle that seemed to come from right behind me. The light inside the car began to flicker. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more chills. See you next time. The day started like any other. I was running late, of course, juggling a coffee in one hand and my work bag in the other. I rushed into the lobby of my office building, a place I'd been 1,000 times, and practically dove into the elevator just as the doors were closing. I jabbed the button for the 22nd floor, leaned back against the cool metal wall, and took a deep breath. The elevator hummed to life, the familiar gentle lurch upwards beginning its daily ascent. I watched the floor numbers light up, 5, 6, 7. I was scrolling through emails on my phone, half paying attention. Then somewhere around the 10th floor, the gentle hum just stopped. It wasn't a sudden jolt or a scary noise. It was the silence that was so unsettling. The car just hung there, suspended in the void. I looked up from my phone, a little annoyed. Great, I muttered, expecting it to start up again in a second. 1 second passed, then 5, then 10. The little display screen above the door was frozen, just a blank, dark rectangle. Okay, this is a little weird. I pressed the button for my floor again. Nothing. I tried the door open button. Still nothing. A little knot of unease started to form in my stomach. I pressed it again, harder this time, as if the force of my finger could will it to obey. The doors remained stubbornly, silently shut. My annoyance was quickly turning into something else, something colder. I started pressing other floors, 15, 18, 20, anything. The buttons lit up for a split second and then went dark. It was like the elevator was just ignoring me, a dead box of metal and wires. My heart started to beat a little faster. Hello? I called out, my voice sounding small and thin in the confined space. Is anyone out there? Only silence answered. I started jabbing the alarm button, that little bell icon I'd never had a reason to notice before. I pressed it once, twice, 3 times, holding it down. No bell rang. No crackle of a speaker from a security guard. Nothing. That's when the real panic started to bubble up. The calm, rational part of my brain was being drowned out by a rising tide of fear. I was trapped, really trapped. My breathing got shallow, and I could feel a cold sweat on my forehead. The walls, which had seemed so spacious just minutes before, suddenly felt like they were closing in on me. I slammed my hand against the door, a loud, flat thud that echoed in the silence. Help, I yelled, my voice cracking. Somebody help me. I'm stuck in here. I pounded on the doors again and again, my knuckles starting to ache. I felt like screaming into a vacuum. The logical thought that someone would eventually notice the elevator was out of service was completely gone, replaced by a primal terror that I was completely, utterly alone. I slid down the wall, my back pressing against the cold metal, and pulled my knees to my chest. How long had it been? 5 minutes, 10, it felt like an eternity. The air felt thick, heavy, and hard to breathe. Every tiny creak of the building, every distant, muffled sound from the outside world was magnified, morphing into something sinister in my head. I looked at the panel of unresponsive buttons, my own reflection staring back at me from the polished steel, a wide-eyed, terrified stranger. I tried the alarm button one more time, a desperate, last-ditch effort. Silence. The quiet was the worst part. It was a heavy, suffocating blanket, and all I could hear was the frantic, panic drumming of my own heart, a lonely beat in a silent steel box, suspended somewhere between the floors, completely cut off from the world. Have you ever felt a chill run down your spine when you're all alone? That prickly feeling on the back of your neck, like someone is watching you? I think we all have. But what if that feeling was real? What if the whispers you hear in an empty room aren't just the wind, or your imagination playing tricks on you? This is a story about that feeling, a story that might make you think twice the next time you're home alone at night. It starts, as many strange tales do, in a perfectly ordinary house. Nothing special about it. 4 walls, a roof, a few creaky floorboards. The kind of place you'd pass by 1,000 times without a second glance. But inside, something was stirring. It began steadily, a faint sound, almost like the sigh of the wind, but there was no breeze. The owner of the house, a young woman named Clara, would be reading a book or making tea, and she'd hear it. A whisper, so soft it was barely there, like a secret being shared just out of earshot. At first, she dismissed it. Old houses make noises, right? The pipes gurgle, the wood settles. It's normal. But the whispers didn't sound like pipes or wood. They sounded human, and they were always just on the edge of her hearing. Impossible to make out, which was almost more maddening than if she could understand them. Days turned into weeks, and the whispers grew more frequent, more insistent. They would echo from the hallway when she was in the living room, or from downstairs when she was trying to sleep. Clara started talking to herself just to fill the silence, to drown them out. She'd play music constantly, leave the TV on even when she wasn't watching. Anything to create a wall of sound between her and the unnerving quiet. She checked every vent, every window, convinced there had to be a rational explanation. A draft, a neighbor's radio bleeding through the walls, but she found nothing. The house remained stubbornly silent, except for the whispers. Then came the shadows. It started with the glass doors leading out to the patio. In the evenings, with the lights on inside, the doors became dark mirrors, reflecting the cozy warmth of her living room. But one night, as she glanced at the reflection, she saw it. A flicker of movement, a shadow darker than the rest, detaching itself from the edge of the reflected sofa and gliding silently across the glass before vanishing. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She spun around. Nothing. The room was empty, exactly as it had been. She told herself it was a car's headlights from the street, a trick of the light, but it happened again and again. The shadows and the reflection of the glass doors seemed to have a life of their own. They would stretch and contort in ways that defied physics. Sometimes a tall, slender shadow would appear to stand just behind her reflection, its form indistinct but undeniably present. She'd whip around, her breath catching in her throat, only to find empty air. The terror was becoming a constant companion, a cold knot in her stomach. She started avoiding the living room after dark, preferring the smaller, less reflective spaces in the house. The whispers continued their torment, but now they were joined by these silent, watching shadows. Clara was living on a knife's edge, sleep-deprived and paranoid. Was she losing her mind? The house, once her sanctuary, had become a prison. One night, fueled by a desperate need for answers, she decided to confront it. She stood before the patio doors, her own terrified face staring back at her. The room was quiet, too quiet. Then a whisper, clearer than ever before, right beside her ear. It spoke a single, chilling word. Look. Her gaze snapped back to the reflection. The shadow figure was there, standing directly behind her reflected self, but this time it was different. It wasn't just a vague shape. As she stared, frozen in place, the shadow slowly raised a hand, and the reflection placed it on her shoulder. She didn't feel a thing, but she saw it. She saw the dark, incorporeal fingers resting on her reflected self. And in the glass, the shadow's head tilted as if it was leaning in to tell her a secret. What do you think it whispered? Let me know your theories in the comments. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoy a good scare, be sure to subscribe for more strange stories. Stay safe. Have you ever had that dream? The one where you're falling, or maybe you're running, but your feet are stuck in mud? It's that feeling of complete powerlessness, where the world around you stops making sense. Well, what if that dream wasn't a dream at all? What if it happened when you were wide awake, trapped in a tiny metal box? Picture this. You're heading home after a long day. You step into the elevator of your apartment building just like you have 1,000 times before. You press the button for your floor, the doors slide shut, and the familiar gentle hum begins as you start to ascend. Everything is normal. Everything is fine. You lean against the back wall, scrolling through your phone, half listening to the faint music playing through the speakers. Then you feel it. A subtle lurch, not the usual jolt of the elevator stopping. It's a strange, sickening slide, like the floor beneath you has turned to jelly. You look up from your phone, your brow furrowed. The fluorescent light above flickers once, then twice. The music cuts out, replaced by a low, droning buzz. Your heart starts to beat a little faster. Okay, weird, you think. Maybe a power surge. You glance at the control panel. The number for your floor is lit, but it's not changing. You're not going up or down. You're just stuck. You press the door open button, nothing happens. You press it again, harder this time. Still nothing. A flicker of panic ignites in your chest. You reach for the emergency call button, your finger hovering just above it, but that's when you notice it, the wall in front of you. It seems further away than it was a second ago. You blink, shaking your head. It must be a trick of the light, the stress of being stuck. But no. The polished metal surface is definitely receding. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the elevator is getting bigger. You push yourself off the back wall, taking a hesitant step forward. The air feels thick, heavy. The low hum intensifies, vibrating through the soles of your shoes. The corner where the two side walls meet seems to stretch, the right angle softening into a bizarre curve. It's like you're inside a balloon that's being slowly inflated. Your mind is screaming that this is impossible, that solid steel and right angles don't just bend and warp. But your eyes are telling you a different story. Panic takes over. You slam your palms against the doors, the cold metal jarring your bones. Hello, is anyone out there? The elevator is broken. Your voice sounds small and swallowed by the growing space. The back wall is now so far away you can barely make out your own smudged reflection. The ceiling seems to be rising, stretching upwards into a dark, cavernous void where the light fixture used to be. The space is expanding in all directions, pulling apart at the seams like taffy. You run towards the doors, which now seem miles away. Your footsteps echo in the vast metallic chamber this elevator has become. It's a hopeless, desperate sprint. You know you'll never reach them. The distance keeps growing with every step you take. You turn, looking for the back wall, for any wall, but they are just distant, shimmering planes of metal in an endless, humming void. You're not in an elevator anymore. You're in a prison of impossible geometry, a box that has unfolded into infinity. There are no doors, no buttons, no escape. There is only the hum, the stretching walls, and the chilling realization that you are completely and utterly alone in a place that shouldn't exist. You stop running. You stand in the center of the impossible space, and you scream. And the sound just travels forever, with no wall to ever stop it. What would you do in that situation? It's a terrifying thought, a waking nightmare that twists the rules of reality. It makes you wonder about the thin veil between our world and something else. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoy exploring these unsettling ideas, make sure to subscribe for more. Be careful in elevators. The rain was relentless, a cold, hammering rhythm against the roof of the car. I fumbled for my phone, my fingers numb and clumsy. The screen flickered to life, its cold blue light a stark contrast to the oppressive darkness outside. No signal, of course, one single mocking bar, then gone. I tried again, my thumb swiping desperately, willing the bars to appear. Nothing, just the words, "no service," staring back at me, a digital tombstone for my hope. My heart started to pound, a frantic drum against my ribs. Thump, 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 thump. It was getting louder. Or maybe it was just the silence in the car, a silence so complete it felt like a physical weight. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the tremor in my hands. Panic won't help. Think. I just needed to think. I gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white. The road ahead was a black river, swallowed by the night and the storm, Behind me, the same. I was on an island of asphalt in a sea of nothing. The heartbeat was a drum solo now, echoing in my ears, drowning out the rain. Thump, 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 thump. How far to the next town? Did I pass a house? My mind was a frantic blur of missed signs and wrong turns. I couldn't remember. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to picture the map I'd glanced at hours ago. It was useless. A meaningless spider web of lines. The sound of my own pulse was deafening. It felt like the car was shaking with it, vibrating with my fear. I had to do something. Sitting here waiting was not an option. I pushed the door open, a blast of wind and rain hitting me in the face. The cold was a shock, sharp and biting. I held the phone up, turning in a slow circle, a desperate prayer to a satellite I couldn't see. Please, just one bar, just one call. The screen was slick with rain, the no service message blurring into a cruel taunt. My breath hitched in my throat, a sob catching before it could escape. The pounding in my chest was unbearable now, a wild, panicked animal trying to break free. It was no longer just a sound. It was a physical force shaking my entire body. I was completely and utterly alone. The thought was a shard of ice in my gut. I slammed the car door shut, the sound swallowed by the storm. I was back in my metal box, my sanctuary and my prison. I rested my forehead against the cold glass of the window, watching the rain trace frantic patterns down the pane. Every shadow in the tree line seemed to move, every rustle of leaves a footstep. Was that a light? No, just a trick of my own terrified mind. The heartbeat hadn't slowed. It had found a new rhythm, a steady, grim beat accompanying the rain. Thump, 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 thump. A metronome counting down to... What? I didn't want to know. I scrolled through my contacts, their names and faces a parade of ghosts. People I could talk to, laugh with, but couldn't reach. The isolation was a crushing weight. I locked the doors, the click echoing in the small space. It was a futile gesture, but it was all I could do. I was trapped. The engine was dead, the phone was useless, and the night was endless. I leaned back in my seat, closing my eyes, and just listened. The rain on the roof, the wind howling through the trees, and the relentless, overpowering beat of my own terrified heart. It was the only thing I could hear, the only proof that I was still here, still alive, in the middle of nowhere, waiting for a dawn that felt like it might never come. Thanks for watching. If you've ever felt this kind of fear, you're not alone. Remember to subscribe for more stories. I knew I couldn't run forever. The thought was a cold, hard stone in my gut. Turning back wasn't an option. The way I came in was gone, swallowed by the shifting, groaning metal of this forgotten place. My only path was forward, deeper into the heart of this mechanical beast. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the echoing silence. I had to confront this. I had to face whatever was waiting for me in the dark. Deep breath in, hold it, let it out slowly. My pulse began to steady, just a little. Stay calm, I told myself. Panic is the enemy. Panic is what gets you killed. I took a step, then another, my boots crunching on something that wasn't just rust and grime. It was glass. Shattered fragments littered the floor, crunching under my weight like brittle autumn leaves. The air grew colder, heavy with a sense of dread that was almost suffocating. That's when I saw the first one. It was a flicker, a shimmer in the air just ahead. A man in an old-fashioned suit, his face pale and drawn, stared at me with hollow eyes. He was translucent, a ghost of light and memory. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Then, as quickly as he appeared, he was gone. My breath hitched. Was I losing my mind? Was the lack of oxygen playing tricks on me? I forced myself to keep moving, my eyes darting into every shadow, every corner. Then I saw another one. A woman clutching a small suitcase to her chest, her clothes from a different era. Her expression was one of pure terror, her eyes wide as she stared at something over my shoulder. I spun around, my flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. Nothing. When I turned back, she too had vanished. It was like walking through a graveyard of echoes. More and more of them appeared. A young boy, no older than 10, holding a toy train, his face streaked with tears. A woman in a floral dress, her hand outstretched as if reaching for someone. Their silent screams and desperate gazes filled the narrow corridor. They were trapped here, every one of them, reliving their final terrifying moments over and over again. They weren't trying to hurt me. I realized that with a sudden, chilling certainty. They were warning me. The visions became more frantic, more intense. They pointed, they gestured, their phantom forms overlapping in a chaotic ballet of fear. They were all directing me towards the same place, a heavy reinforced door at the far end of the car. The air around it seemed to vibrate with a low hum, a malevolent energy that made the hairs on my arms stand up. Whatever happened here, whatever trapped these souls, it was behind that door. My fear was a living thing, coiling in my stomach, whispering for me to turn and run, but their silent pleas were stronger. I had to know. I had to see what was on the other side. My hand, shaking but resolute, reached for the handle. Thank you for watching, and if you want to see what happens next, make sure to subscribe. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the most chilling and perplexing unsolved mysteries in recent history, the disappearance of Eliza Lam. The story is unsettling. The evidence is bizarre, and to this day, no one knows exactly what happened to her in her final moments. So let's set the scene. It's January 2013. Eliza Lam, a 21-year-old student from Canada, is on a solo trip across the west coast of the United States. She's documenting her journey online, posting photos and sharing her thoughts on her blog. Her posts are full of excitement and optimism about her adventure. Her next stop is Los Angeles, where she checks into the Cecil Hotel, a place with a notoriously dark and troubled past. Originally, Eliza was staying in a shared dorm-style room, but her roommates reportedly complained about her odd behavior, and she was moved to a private room on the same floor. This is where things start to get strange. She was supposed to check out on January 31st, but she never did. Her parents, who she had been in contact with every single day of her trip, suddenly heard nothing. They immediately knew something was wrong and contacted the LAPD. The police searched the hotel, including her room, with scent-detecting dogs, but found no trace of her. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. For weeks, the case went cold. There was no sign of Eliza, no leads, and a growing sense of desperation. The police, hoping for a breakthrough, decided to release the last known footage of her. And this is where the story takes a truly disturbing turn that captured the world's attention. The footage is from one of the Cecil Hotel's elevators. Dated in the early hours of February 1st, it's just under 4 minutes of grainy, unsettling security video. In it, we see Eliza acting incredibly strangely. She enters the elevator and presses multiple buttons. Then she waits, but the doors don't close. She peeks out into the hallway, looking left and right as if she's hiding from someone. She quickly steps back into the elevator, pressing herself into the corner, but the doors still don't close. She cautiously steps out again, looking around before moving just out of the camera's view. A moment later, she's back, standing by the elevator control panel. Her hands start moving in a very unnatural, almost non-human way. She gestures and seems to be talking to someone or something that we can't see. Then, just as suddenly, she walks away, and the elevator doors, which had been open this whole time, finally close, and the elevator begins to move. This is the last time anyone ever saw her. The video went viral. People all over the world tried to make sense of what they were seeing. Was she having a psychotic break? Was she playing a game of hide and seek? Or was she genuinely terrified of someone pursuing her just off camera? The theories were endless. The search for Alyssa intensified. Meanwhile, guests at the Cecil Hotel began to complain about low water pressure and a strange taste and color to the water. On February 19th, almost 3 weeks after she was last seen, a hotel maintenance worker went to check the water tanks on the roof. The rooftop was supposed to be locked and alarmed, accessible only to staff. When he looked inside one of the 4 large tanks, he made a horrifying discovery. Alyssa Lamb's body was found floating inside the tank. The discovery only deepened the mystery. How did she get up to the locked roof? How did she manage to climb into the tall water tank and close the heavy lid from the inside? The autopsy report concluded her death was an accidental drowning, with her bipolar disorder listed as a significant contributing factor. But for many, this explanation just didn't add up. It left too many questions unanswered. How could a person, in the midst of a potential manic episode, navigate a series of locked doors, climb a massive tank, and pull a heavy lid over themselves? To this day, the case remains a subject of intense debate. Was it a tragic accident fueled by a mental illness, or was there something more sinister at play? The Cecil Hotel's grim history, the inexplicable elevator video, and the bizarre circumstances of her death have turned Eliza Lamb's story into a modern-day ghost story. We may never know the full truth of what happened on that fateful night. What do you think happened? Let me know your theories in the comments below. It's a truly haunting case that sticks with you. Thanks for watching, and if you found this story as compelling as I do, be sure to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the world's greatest mysteries. Stay safe out there,